Welcome everyone. This Tuesday's UTR All Access Series powered by Oracle will be getting started in just a few minutes. Get comfortable, get some water, get some snacks. We have a really special webinar for you today. I'm really excited about today's guest. You can see people piling in now. Very nice. Had a great showing last time. Had a lot of great questions. We learned a lot from Sam Querrey. Hi, Nancy Lee. How are you? Just to let everyone know, we love when people get interactive in here. That's what this is all about. We really want you to participate. Let us know what you think. Let us know how passionate you are about the topics we're talking about, the sport we all know and love so well. Hi, Niv. How are you? Braden? All piling in now. We have some from Chattanooga. Hi, guys. How are you? Parent and daughter watching. That's what we like to see. Parents and kids. One of my favorite things about the sport, brings everyone together. We have a repeat viewer, Mr. Dave Prakash. Good to see you. Again, we have to have a talk. You took my first name, put it as your last name. All over the world, some guests from Dubai. Very nice. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Prakash Amritraj. I grew up playing juniors here in the US, played for USC, got them a national title my freshman year, played on the tour for quite some time, and now I'm one of the faces for Tennis Channel. So you can catch me on Tennis Channel Live, April 20th through 24th. We're still bringing you new content, even though there's no live tennis being played right now. Now, as we are getting ready to get started, right before we tee up our very special guest today, while everyone's getting settled in, I want to play an intro video for you guys on how UTR powered by Oracle is really changing the game of tennis.
There is a movement building in tennis, a groundswell that is changing the game, redefining who we play, how we play, and bringing fun to the sport in a whole new way. It isn't about who you are, where you come from, or your age or gender. It's about passion and love of the sport, about the will to improve, about community, competition, fun, and friendship. In local communities all around the world, this movement is creating new opportunities that make tennis, well, universal, equal, open, inviting. This is Universal Tennis. Want to join us?
And with that, a very warm welcome to the UTR Powered by Oracle All Access Series, a free opportunity to learn and connect with some of the biggest names in tennis. Now, just a reminder to all of the coaches out there, stay tuned because UTR has a new virtual events initiative coming very soon for any coach, anywhere, to be able to create and host your own virtual events. They can be for free or they can be paid with all of the proceeds going to the coaches. So go to myutr.com and sign up for free, and UTR will get you all set up ASAP. And just a reminder, we will be doing this Tuesdays and Thursdays. Coming up this Thursday is the esteemed, very famous coach, historic, Mr. Nick Bollettieri. He'll be coming up 2 p.m. Pacific time on Thursday. Now, I don't really know where to start with the introduction for our guest. She's obviously one of the best players in the world, currently sitting inside the top 20. She's had a phenomenal 2019, had some very impressive results last year, arguably the best year of her career so far. You can see her UTR has moved up substantially all the way throughout the year. Right there, improved by 0.13, but highlighted by big wins, both at Wimbledon and the US Open, defeating Ash Barty, the #1 player in the world, down a set at Wimbledon, just losing out to Serena in the quarterfinals. Again, down a set to two-time Grand Slam champion Garbine Muguruza at the US Open. Really want to talk to her about those wins because real mental strength is something we can all learn from. And of course, she continued her strong play in Wuhan, end of the year. And of course, that match against Muchova in Brisbane. I was there for that, continuing her strong play. And I'm sure she'll continue that when we all resume with live tennis. But with no further ado, can I please bring to the show Miss Alison Riske, Miss Alison Riske Amritraj. How we doing?
Hey guys, thank you so much for coming in and having a listen and spending a little bit of time with us. I'm so excited to be here, and I look forward to your questions. So make sure you send some things over for me to answer.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. Listen, as you send in questions now, and everyone who sent in questions before, we're going to be taking a look at all of them, trying to pull out the most interesting ones. So I'll be shouting all you guys out at the end of the show as we give some of those questions to Alison. Again, Alison, thank you for taking the time. First, can I just ask you, before we jump into all things Alison, how are you managing during this quarantine period?
That's a great question. And to be honest, it's funny because I feel like I was kind of made for this moment. I was made for quarantine because I feel like this is everything I love to do. I love to be at home with my family. I'm spending time with my husband. You know, we're on house arrest, voluntary house arrest because of the quarantine. And I have, you know, tons of food, tons of toilet paper. You know, I'm really honestly enjoying it. It's a great time to just kind of relax. You know, we're very humbled by this. There's nothing, you know, that we can do. It's very much out of our control. So I'm making the most of it, and you know, really honestly enjoying it as much as I can.
Now, I will say you're looking very good. Are you managing to stay fit throughout this time?
Well, thanks, P. You're my cousin-in-law, so you have no choice but to say that. But honestly, I've been working out every day, so I've been able to get a workout in. I'm, you know, working out in the back. I'm not going to any gyms. The gyms in our area are closed. Luckily, we do have a tennis court open, so I've been able to go occasionally. And, you know, it just so happens that my husband, you know, is an esteemed tennis player, you know. So I'm able to go out there and have a hit with him. It's nothing serious, but just to keep, you know, keep things loose, keep my body going. And I've been very fortunate because I know a lot of places have, you know, their courts locked up or something, you know, so I'm very fortunate that I'm still able to get out there and hit a little bit.
Ali, there's just so much that I want to get into, because I think you're really one of those players and personalities who so many people can learn from, kids, parents, adults, just you know, so many people can learn from you. But I'd like to just go back to the beginning a little bit so everyone gets a feel for you and your background. So you know, right from the beginning, where are you from?
All right, I like this. I think I saw some Pittsburgh shout outs over there on the chat. So I am originally from Pittsburgh. I grew up there. My parents still live there. My brother lives there. You know, I started playing when I was 3 years old. My dad took me out in front of our house, and he didn't have a net, but he would just hit the ball with me. I hated it with every ounce of my being. I hated playing tennis. All I wanted to do was play dolls, be with my friends, and maybe be a cheerleader one day. So I had no intention of, you know, playing tennis, but, you know, lucky for me, my dad actually retired from the government. He was in the Secret Service, and he retired. He put in his time, and he retired when I was 5 years old. So my siblings are both much older than me, 7 and 9 years older, and actually 6 and 9 years, excuse me. And so I was my dad's next project. And I believe my first coach is actually on this call. She's Janice Irwin. She's still one of my closest friends. And she's there for me for everything. And she was my first tennis coach. I started with her when I was 8. But my dad never missed a lesson. He picked up all the balls for me. I never touched a ball growing up. Like, he was on it. And like I said, I did not like tennis. The only thing, you know, that I enjoyed about it was the competition, and I enjoyed winning. And that was kind of what kept me in it until, you know, I was, you know, a little bit later in life, and realizing that I really have, you know, there's a place for this in my life further than just college tennis. And so again, I attribute everything to my dad. Obviously my mom was influential as well, and she had many sacrifices to get me here, but my dad was the guy that was there and made it all happen for me. So you know, I live in Orlando now. I train with a coach, Billy Heiser. He's in Tampa. I'm in Orlando, but we kind of go back and forth just so I can have a little bit of time at home, but also accommodate him because he has a wife in Tampa. So, you know, I can't be selfish all the time.
So your dad was the one who got you into the sport originally. Did he have his own relationship with the game? Was he a fan of the game? Did he play it?
He, you know, my dad, he is German. That is his heritage, and he's very much a strict personality. He played with my mom for fun, but his big thing about tennis, my sister and brother both played. However, they dabbled in other sports, whereas when I came along, I had no choice. I tried ballet for one day, and I ran out and cried to my mom and sat on her lap because I didn't want to be away from her for that long. So that was the only thing I've ever tried. And yeah, I don't know. To be honest, it's they played, but my dad wanted us all in an individual sport. So it was basically between, you know, golf, boxing, and tennis won out.
You dabbled a little bit in other sports before you kind of really settled in on tennis.
I never did. I never played soccer, never played basketball. And it's funny, to this day, if you were to say, hey, Allie, you know, like a lot of players are so good, you know, they cross train, and a lot of the Europeans are good with their feet, you know, with the soccer ball. If you throw me a soccer ball, I'll probably catch it and throw it back to you. Like that just isn't happening. So, you know, but I do not regret any of that personally because, you know, I loved being in an individual sport. I honestly don't think my personality would have suited anything else. And so I'm very grateful for the path that I took.
Did you have success early in juniors? When did you start playing your first tournament? When did you win your first tournament?
Yeah, so I remember the tournament like it was yesterday. I was 8 years old in Fox Chapel. On the courts for all my Pittsburgh folks out there. And I won the first set, lost the second set, thought it meant that I lost the match. I came off before the third set in the little break. My mom was with me, and she doesn't know tennis really either. So I was crying to her, and I was like, this is the worst thing. I thought I lost the match. I thought it was over. And my mom's like, Allie, you have to go out and play another set. And I broke down. I was like, you've got to be kidding. I have to go back out there and play more. And you know what? I think the release of tears and all the frustration was great because I went out and I think I won the third set, maybe 6-1 against Vanessa Siren. And it was still one of my favorite wins to this day.
And listen, if Vanessa's watching, sorry to bring up that painful match. She's probably thinking about it all the time, Allie.
I'm not sorry, Vanessa.
So you had a taste of it early, and you said that winning kind of kept you in the sport. At what point did it sort of shift to a more serious practice schedule?
Well, that you know, honestly, when I was in they considered it elementary school. However, with our school district, it was in middle school, it was 4th through 6th. My dad, I was doing before school. So I was getting up, I can't remember the exact time, but school was probably starting at 8:30, and I would do an hour before school. So my dad would get me up, and I would do it maybe 2 or 3 times a week in addition to my after school clinic, or I would do a semi-private with Janice Irwin, who, as I said, is on the call, on the webinar. And once I got to high school, we realized that it just wasn't going to work, with where my career was going and the things I was trying to accomplish. I just wasn't having enough time to be on court. So we kind of, explored other avenues, and we settled on Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, which was an amazing thing because it was online. However, I still had a teacher. So everything was virtual, just as we're kind of doing right now. So I had a couple courses, something like history, actually one course, history, which is something you can kind of just do by memorization. But every other class had a teacher, which was amazing for me because, if I had to teach myself, pre-calc, well, I would have had no hope. So it was really a blessing. And that was only for my high school years. So 9th through 12th grade, I did online.
So how interesting. You showed so much promise, even at that age, that 9th through 12th, you ended up doing, not going to a full school, but doing it online. So you had more time for tennis. Looking back on that, is that a decision you were happy with? Or do you ever say, oh, you know what, I wish I had that high school experience? What are your thoughts now?
Like I said, the path that I chose, anything that I had done in my career, I could never come up with something. I actually speak with my husband about this. Like, there's nothing that I would say, oh, I wish I had done this different. And maybe I wish I would have found maybe a specific trainer or specific coach sooner than I had, but nothing in terms of the decisions that I made, because ultimately, I am here today. So, yeah, I don't think I would have changed anything, especially too, growing up in the public school system. I had already formed my relationships with my friends. So I didn't, when I went to high school, I still had my friends that were in the public high school, and I still had my friends at tennis. So I was never kind of missing out from that standpoint. And again, with all this being said, I was doing this to still get a college scholarship. I was not doing this because I aspired to be, top 10 in the world. This was just what we felt was the best chance for me to get, my full scholarship at the time. And so in hindsight, it obviously, I think, propelled me to get the time that I needed to possibly go down the pro route. But at that time, my intention was purely to go to college.
Now, that's interesting. You had set your sights on that. You obviously did very well in that 9th through 12th grade period, and you earned that college scholarship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I did. And it was honestly such an exciting time for me because I felt like, gosh, like this is what I had worked for. And I pretty much had the pick of the crop with what school I wanted to go to. Thanks to hard work and my family that, made it happen for me. So I chose Vanderbilt. It came down to Duke and Vandy. Sorry, my husband's in the room and he went to Duke. So I don't think it's a little sensitive subject, but I did choose Vandy ultimately because I knew the coach, Jeff McDonald, and the assistant, Aliki Subanos, who actually, my sister attended Vanderbilt and played doubles with Aliki and played under Coach McDonald. So I knew her experience. And for me, it was, where I felt at home. And so, it was, this kind of segues into another route, but it was 2 weeks before I was supposed to go. I had my roommate, I had my bed comforters picked out. I had all my decor. I had everything picked out, and 2 weeks before class was supposed to begin at Vanderbilt, I had a family friend call me up. I'll never forget where I was. I was in our condo in Hilton Head in our living room, and he randomly called. We weren't seeking anything. We were not seeking, possibilities of turning pro. And he called and said, hey, if you want to turn professional, I will support you. And at that time, my sister was going to travel with me. So I will support you and your sister if you want to go professional. And I was ranked 220 on the WTA at the time. So I was just kind of creeping into qualities of Grand Slams. And you know what? I decided that day, I said, all right, we're going for it.
Well, gosh, there are so many things that come to my mind when I hear that. But I guess the first thing is, did you make that decision on your own? Did your parents weigh in? Was it a family decision? Because that's a huge life decision there.
It is a huge decision, and it's actually kind of ironic because I feel like if I hadn't had the support of my parents, who were amazingly in support of me turning professional and kind of giving up this scholarship that pretty much they paid for over 12, well, even more, 20 years of, or 15 years of lessons for me, of travel, of everything. So they were willing to sacrifice what they spent for me to pursue something that I possibly wasn't going to succeed at. And they were all in. And I think if anyone in my family was a little hesitant, it would have been myself. But when I saw their belief in me and, the support, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And worst cases, if it doesn't work, I'm going to go be an assistant at a university, and I'm going to try to get my education paid for that way.
It's such a wonderful thing that your family friend was able to come in and offer this opportunity. And gosh, look how well you've done with it. Everyone is just, so tremendously proud. But, let's talk about the significance of it. I mean, when you're about 220 in the world at the time. Now you're, I guess, about 18, roughly that age, 19, getting ready for college. So, you haven't, had a chance to really earn a living for yourself. What's it like at 220 in the world? Expenses, a coach. Is it quite costly to be able to even try to play on the tour?
Well, it's very expensive, and especially coming from the modest background that I did come from, it was something that was kind of, it was otherworldly. It was like, wow, well, that's why I never aspired to be professional, because I knew financially that was something that, it just wasn't in the cards for me and my family. And nothing against them. They did absolutely everything to get me everything that they possibly could, but to pursue it further was not an option. And so having, I'm going to name Tom, come out and, offer this support. It was something that, it was the heavens open and God just dropped Tom down, and it was something, it changed my life, really. So the expenses are, sorry, I'm getting emotional. I'm so grateful for them, but
please.
the finances of tennis and doing it the right way, I think, is, if you're going to go and do it, you have to give yourself the best chance possible. You can't just dabble and say, I'm going to try to make this happen. You either got to go and make it happen and do the right things, or don't do it. It's, unless you want to say, oh, I tried to play professional tennis. I think that this is a decision that it has to be given the best chance to succeed. And so one of Tom's big things, he's like, I don't want you staying, necessarily. And, I want you to stay in places that, are the host hotels that are quiet, that, are accommodating, because I want to give you the best chance to make this work. And so, honestly, I couldn't even give you a number back then, 2009, what it would have cost to have made this, work yearly. But I had my sister with me, so I wasn't traveling alone. That was another thing, that was important. So ultimately, I'm just so grateful to Tom.
Now, Ali, of course, you can take this sport to any level you want. It brings so much great value if you're a husband and wife and you play at the club. If you're a kid and you take it to college or even a scholarship. Now, taking it to the pros, especially at the level that you've done it, that's the highest that it gets. So when you refer to things as doing the right things, what are some of the things you're referring to? Surely maybe having someone to travel with, maybe staying at the right places. What are they?
Yeah, I think you can look at it micro and macro. I mean, doing the right thing is, covers so many vast categories, but every decision that you make on a daily basis is either putting you in the direction to succeed in whatever you do, whether you work in an office, whether you work as a teacher, if you're in the, every question and everything that comes up, you have a choice to do the right thing. And so, I'm going to take it from, an athletic standpoint. If you're trying to make it on tour and you have the choice, do I feel like working out now, or do I not feel like working out now? What is the right thing to do? And I feel like, how many hours you need to put in, what you need to do in the gym. Everyone, what you need to work on mentally. Everyone knows, pretty much what they should be doing, and you ultimately have to do the right thing, and it's going to be the one that, you know, requires a lot of hours, requires a lot of, you know, mental work and attention and focus, but ultimately, you know, that's what's going to lead you to where you want to go. So I just think every decision, you know, can be made by doing the right thing and not the wrong thing.
You know, I think that's such a, I mean, it's really a metaphor for life. I mean, even as I've been fortunate enough to know you and spend time with you, you know, you seem to be that way in everything you do, not just tennis. And I think that's such a great lesson that so many, you know, young kids can learn. It's not necessarily just, you know, what you do on the court, but it's how you do things off the court and how you live your life.
That's right. It's about relationships, about doing the right thing in relationships, about treating people the right way. It's about, you know, going about your work in the right manner, you know, professionally, with your whole heart. You know, everything that you do, you know, I believe should be done in the right way.
Ali, I'm not quite sure where I want to start with your career, because you've had, you know, so many different milestones and so many different highlights, but you know what? I'm just going to go straight for the best year yet, and I know you'll have even better years coming, but going straight to 2019, I'm going to call in a special guest to be able to ask the first question. So can we have our special guest pop up with that question?
Jeff! Oh my gosh, what a special guest!
I'm filming this from inside the Vanderbilt Tennis Center. And
oh my God, look at that legend behind you!
Your sister, Sarah.
That's amazing!
So here's my question for you. I got to watch you play at Wimbledon last summer, and I was incredibly impressed with the growth of your mental game. So I'd love to hear what you have worked on specifically to become mentally tougher, because you were just a warrior out there, and it was great to see. Reminded me of your older sister. And then the second question is, it was clear to me that you've worked a lot on coming in and taking balls out of the air and attacking the net, especially on big points. So if you could speak to that, that would be great. And hope to see you soon. Bye.
Oh my gosh, that was the greatest stream ever.
First, a little shout out to Sarah Riske with that warm in the back on that poster. Pretty impressive. Gosh. Pretty impressive.
If only she was tuning in, she would have loved that little nod to her. Gosh. Oh, that was so nice. Okay, well, I'm going to answer the questions from Jeff.
Please.
So number one, about the mentality. Yeah. So where do I begin? You know, it was my 11th year on tour, guys. 11 years it took me to have my coming out year. I just want everyone to understand. You know, so never put a time frame on anything, number one, okay? If you are in the process and do the right thing every day, good things will come. You don't know when, you don't know if, but you're putting yourself in the right position to possibly make it happen. So I felt, you know, throughout my whole career, despite the roller coaster that it had been, you know, the ups and downs, I knew full well, and I still know that it's something that needs improvement, but my mentality is what kind of held me back. I'm very emotional. I care, you know, about the people around me. I care how other people feel. I care about making people happy. You know, I'm, you know, very much caring about my environment. So a lot of times I'd be worried about people that were watching or what people thought, or, you know, how everything that was going on, you know, that was totally out of my control. Okay. Except what was in my control is battling those thoughts and putting an end to them. So I knew, you know, during my whole career, despite the ups and downs, I always did the right thing. I would always come back after a loss. I would always train. I would, you know, be in the gym. I would put in the time. But the one thing I wasn't putting enough time into was the mental aspect. And I don't know if people know here, but I started working with Prakash, the man behind the mic here on the UTR podcast, or on the webinar. And I was spending a lot of time with Prakash, speaking about all things that came to my heart. So any worries, any frustrations about my tennis, or just about life in general. And and we would talk through them, and we would kind of, come across, things that were more challenging than others, but we were able to break them down enough that I felt comfortable, like I moved past it. And so I was starting to spend a lot of time on it. Anytime bad thoughts came up, I was really quick to negate them and kind of move on. And that was the number one key. So I knew going into the grass season, I was playing good tennis. I just won Surbiton. I beat Rybarakova in the final, who is a great grass court player for people watching. I'm sure they know. Although she just retired, which I was sad to see. She's a great girl. But that was a huge win for me because I lost the second set in a close, or I lost, I think, the first set. I can't even remember which one, but I came back in the third and I played exactly the way that I was trying to play. I had the right intentions, the right mentality, and I won the third set in a fashion that I was extremely proud of. And that match alone was a turning point for me. I realized that if I put my intentions to the right things and, continue to do the right things, that it was going probably unfold in my favor. Not every time, but I was giving myself a really good chance. So I kind of ran with it. And I guess to answer the question that Jeff asked is I put in a lot of mental time. And I think more than anything and more than ever, the mentality in tennis is by far the most important. Hands down, it's just the most important. So I've been trying to devote more attention to that. I've been doing some visualization. I actually haven't talked to Prakash as much as I probably should be during this time. But I've been, doing other things that I feel like are going to help me once I get back on court. As far as the coming in aspect, I think, I'm at my best when I'm coming forward, finishing balls at the net. And I think that's why, historically speaking, my career has always, done well on grass because it kind of facilitates that style of play, aggressive, flat balls and finishing, points at the net. So we kind of, before grass season in particular, we spend a little bit more time on that, which I should probably be doing more on all surfaces. But I just felt very comfortable, and I was there for the battle, and I didn't care how long it took. I didn't care, if I was out there all day, if there were 15 rain delays. I knew my mission and I was trying to get it done. And I think that ultimately, it was an exciting time for me.
Ali, last year.
Did I put you to sleep there, guys? Sorry.
Listen, I would like to cut that out, edit that. That needs to get posted around everywhere because I think, especially at a younger age, you focus so much on the X's and O's. How am I hitting my forehand? How am I hitting my backhand? And, the way you're talking now, it's so evolved, it's so wise. Like I could listen to you speak all day on that subject, and I got to see it firsthand, which I was so inspired by last year because I saw you come back in so many matches. You see so many players out there when things aren't going well, they kind of throw in the towel a little bit. But the greatest athletes in our sport, when you talk about fighters, you talk about Serena, you talk about Nadal, you talk about, Novak, it's like it comes down to the last point every single time. I'll never forget watching you in Australia this year, where you played fantastic, making the second week over there. And I believe they had cut to your match. It was McEnroe and I think Pam Shriver. And, they were reviewing what had happened. And it was literally, well, Ali got down a set, some tough situations. And then, Ali Riske, she just came back, she won that second set, and then you fought and you won that third. It's kind of developing that.
Compliment, I'll take it.
Well, it's developing that reputation of how tough you are. So my question is, have you felt like you always had that in you, or that developed the more time and, sort of bumps and bruises you took along the tour?
Well, I think it's both. I think it has been in me, but it's taken maturity. So, like I said, me as a person, I really needed the time to kind of feel like I belonged. And it might sound silly, 11 years later at 20, I was 28 at the time, 28 years old. But that's the time it took for me. And I can't be mad at it. I can't be upset about it because I did every day what I felt I could to put myself in the best position, and it just didn't happen. And so I stayed on it. And with that time, I had, a quote unquote, I guess, breakthrough, although I wished it was more than just, the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. But yeah. And like I said from the beginning, I love competition. Competition is what made me fall in love with tennis. I love to win. I love to be in a battle. I love to come out the victor. And it stinks to lose. I mean, I lose every week pretty much, unless you win the tournament. So, it's very easy to, to take that personally and to, not move on quickly, which is what I was doing prior in my career. And I wasn't able to snap out of it. And I would just, fall and fall and fall further because I was beating myself up. Why couldn't I have done this? Why did I do that on this point? How could I have done that? I don't do that in practice. Why do I do that now? And so it was just, I beat myself up. And so I think with maturity, I was able to realize this is idiotic, and to be a little bit more realistic about what was happening.
Have you, it's interesting, we're shifting over a little bit to life now. And you mentioned some of the things, you've been so generous with opening up in this chat. I think so many people have picked up so many things from it. But one of the things you talked about is, worrying maybe about what other people think and so forth, as we all do. We've all been from the 12s up. It's, ingrained in us because it's a competitive sport. But we have an interesting, question that I've been peering over. We got so many questions for you for this webinar. But an interesting one was, how did you develop your self-confidence? You seem to be smiling all the time and, in such a, great mind space. How did you develop that?
Well, that's actually funny, because who I am as a person outside of the tennis court is so free and happy, and I enjoy everything in life. I could be happy sitting on my couch with my husband or family, like I said, for quarantine days, so X amount of days, I'm just very happy. I've never been bored in my life. I just can never be bored. I can do nothing and just be happy. So I just think, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say.
Well, I tell you what, sometimes you can't explain it. We were talking with Sam just not too long ago in our last webinar, and we touched on something that I brought up that, reminded me when I talked about Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, who just passed away. And he said something that gave me so much peace of mind to be able to try so hard was, my dad and mom told me how much they love me. So they told me that before I played, so I didn't really care if I won or lost. So I was just happy playing.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I actually, if my parents were to tell me that, I'd probably start bawling and pray to God I won, because I wouldn't want to let them down. So that one doesn't quite work for me. But and that's honestly why I think they don't come to many tournaments. They know that way. They know that would affect me. But you know what? Honestly, like I grew up and my dad would tell me, Allie, if a person would pass me and I didn't smile at them and say hello, he goes, Allison, look people in the eye and smile at them and say hello. That was his first thing about human beings. So I feel like from a young age, my dad kind of was on me about every little thing. And that's something to this day, I try to do that, just to acknowledge people, acknowledge humans, we're all in this together at the end of the day. But you know what, tennis isn't life. It's a great thing. We're so blessed to be able to do it. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but at the end of the day, it's not everything. And you know what, you lose a match, and God, I've lost so many of them. And yet, here I am, sitting in top 20. So you don't, losses don't define you. Life is good. If you have good people around you, I don't know, it's really hard. It's hard to beat it if you have good people around you. And that's one thing for anyone maybe pursuing, I'd say pros and beyond. I would say surround yourself with good people, whether that's your coach, your family. You can't have a toxic environment, and it's a hard life, and you have to have positivity, love, and care around you at all times.
Before we go into a lot of the questions now that we've gotten from a lot of our audience, I just want to take a moment there, because so much of what you've talked about has been really life related. And, we get so caught up in what we need to do to become better players. I think it's a great lesson for everyone out there to be able to have the perspective similar to you, where you're able to focus and appreciate all of these things that you mentioned, when you're able to mature almost as an individual, and you focus on that, it allows your tennis to kind of become exponentially better. So it's really, really wonderful to hear you, share and open up with that. And shout out to Anne, by the way, because that was the question that got us started off on that tangent. So Anne, thanks very much.
A great question.
Really, really good question. Now, before we get into all the other questions, gotta start with a question from your blast from the past, Ali. So I think we got a good question from that blast from the past.
Hi, Ali. Obviously, you did a lot of right things as a young junior player to attain such a high ranking of number 18 in the world. Looking back as a junior player, do you believe there's anything you could have done differently or even added to help you achieve such a successful career? Thank you so much.
Oh,
Yeah, shout out to
I
Jan.
jump out and hug Jan. Jan, she's the legend I've been speaking of. She's the legend. She was my first tennis coach and one of my very best friends to this day. She lives in Pittsburgh.
Shout out to Jen. She looked great too. Got her hair all did for the video. Very, very nice, Jen.
Yes.
But Ali, now that we can look back, her question's kind of perfect.
Yeah. Jan, I know we've spoken many times about everything that goes on in this world, but you know what, Jan? I would probably have to say, if I was to do anything or add anything at an earlier age, I would say, especially coming from someone like myself, if you can find a good life coach or a good mental coach, that's not just there for tennis. It's there to help you as a human being, as a person, to find who you are. I would say I would implement that from an early age. And an early age, I would say probably no earlier than 12. I don't think earlier than that you could understand, and take in information. But that is something that I think would be an interesting add, and I don't think enough attention is put on it, especially with the stressors of competition and being a girl, with, images out there or what have you. I think it's important that as a girl athlete, you can own exactly who you are and be comfortable with who you are. And it'll help you to get to where you're destined to be quicker.
Boys and girls out there, I hope you guys are, Alison is dropping pearls right now. Pearls of wisdom. Get your notepad out. Get your notepad out, boys and girls. Okay, Ali, I'm gonna mix it up now because listen, you must be one of our most popular guests because we've just gotten pages and pages of questions for you to answer. So
I want to answer all of them.
I'm gonna sift through, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize if we don't get to all of them, but we'll try to stick to some tennis ones. We'll try to stick to some life and fun ones. We haven't talked about some of the basics. So from Lancy, apologies if I didn't get the pronunciation right. But Lancy is asking, what does your daily schedule look like for tennis?
Hey, Lancy. Well, right now, Lancy, we ain't got a lot going on. But, Lancy, I'm going to take you back to when times were a little bit brighter. And I'll cover now too, actually. But before, I do pretty much, now as I've gotten older, I've had to tailor my schedule a little bit differently just to facilitate my body and making sure that I'm treating it the right way. So I'll do usually 3 hours in a row of tennis. So let's say 9 to 12. I'll have a lunch break and then I'll go in the gym for about an hour and a half to an hour 45, 2 hours. My warm up alone is 30 minutes. I got some old bones here. So that's pretty much what will happen on a daily basis. Obviously the times will vary. I will occasionally split up and do 2-a-days of tennis, but I've been doing more, a long extended period for a long time. And honestly, I think that that's why when I get into a third set, fitness has never been an issue. So I think I personally enjoy doing that. Now with quarantine days, well, I get up, I eat. I've been trying to keep somewhat of a schedule, although I haven't done a great job. So I work out every day, and it's outside. So I do a lot of just weight bearing things since I'm not going to the gym. I'll improvise with some Tide detergent bottles as my weights.
Saw that the other day on Instagram. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that's as creative as I get. But and then I'm hitting maybe a few times. I'm going to try to hit a few times a week with Steven, my husband, just to keep timing and maybe work on a couple things. But it's a very loose schedule. Honestly, I'm not complaining. It's kind of nice giving my body a break and maybe, work on my mental a little bit.
Ali, this is a question from Estelle. She's asking, what are the success factors for a female tennis player to get into the top 100? Now, I think that's interesting because obviously, the top 100, top 50, top 20, each level, you need something a bit more. You need to be able to do something more. But the holy grail for so many people who go pro is that top 100. So what do you think is the biggest thing that gets a player from outside the top 100 into that place?
I think number one would be resiliency. So I think that, if you have that alone, you're going to get through a lot, and you're probably ultimately knowing that you have, X amount of skills, you're probably going to get there. If you can get past the hard times and weather the storm, the many storms, and, as I've said before, do the right thing each day, I really believe that you're probably going to get top 100. Hey, it might be 6 years, it might be 8 years, we don't know, but I really think resiliency alone gets you very far, not only in tennis, but probably life in general.
Very good. We have a question from Tanvi. Now, Tanvi is coming in with, since we've talked so much about mental, she's given us, what are your major mental preparations that you do before a match? And what's your thought process like while you're playing?
That's a great question. I think before, I'm trying to stay as relaxed as possible. I'm trying to have, a controlled environment. I don't like to have things loud around me or if people talking. I like to be in a quiet area just so I can kind of get my thoughts together, get my, mission kind of under control. With that being said, there are some matches that I'm so nervous that I don't want to be by myself or in a quiet atmosphere. So I prefer to be around, my husband, my coach, talk a little bit, kind of get the nervous energy out. Obviously, my physical warm up helps with that. But all in all, I get nervous for all of my matches. That's my personality. That's who I am. And I've learned to handle it accordingly. I say to my husband, I'm like, I'm nervous today. And he goes, oh, well, it's a day that ends in Y. So that's my husband's response. So,
What a guy.
Well, no, and I love it so much because it's so true and I don't hide it. And that's who I am. And I've worked through it and I work through it. I still try to. And then when I'm on the court, obviously, as I've made clear, I am nervous. But I try to replace those feelings with my intentions. So what am I looking to do here? What am I going to do on this point? Am I looking to attack her forehand and then pull her wide to the backhand, look to move forward? It depends on each opponent, but I think, if I can replace those thoughts as much as possible with what I am trying to do in that moment, I think that's where I personally have my most success. And it's not easy to get there, but that is the process that I try to follow.
Absolutely terrific stuff. I think we should just note that everyone is like that. You know, the best players in the world, yourself, I've heard Federer talk about it, Rafa, everyone deals with nerves. But the way you just talked about dealing with it, I think is the key. That's what really separates you. So
I mean, Federer's doing like his hair flip. He's like, you know, bouncing balls on his racket, like doing all. I'm like, oh my god, if I try that right now, I'm so nervous. Like my hands, my hair would be everywhere. I would be like, so I try to keep it as condensed as possible.
listen, whatever works for each person. Each person has found your rhythm, and you certainly look like you found yours. Next question from Arki, very unique name. I love that name. What diet do you follow for maximum performance? I know you've mixed around a little bit with your nutrition. Have you found something that works best for you?
Yeah, I've done a few allergy tests in the past to kind of see if there's anything that maybe doesn't agree with my system that I don't think I'm allergic to. One of those, actually, I took the test and I'm allergic to eggs, and I was eating eggs for breakfast every morning.
How interesting.
So actually at the beginning of, I did that in off season of 2018. So since then I haven't eaten an egg. Obviously, if it's in like, you know, a brownie or something, you know, I'm eating that brownie, but you know, that's just something small. But for the most part, I try to eat a balanced diet. I don't eat too much gluten. That's one thing. I just get stomach aches with it. But if I want dessert, I'll have it. Obviously, I don't eat it every night or every day, but I try to eat a balanced diet. And that's actually one thing that we were looking to do during this time is to speak with someone to do proper blood work and to know what my system, you know, actually reacts best to. So that's kind of in the process, and I think it would be very interesting.
How interesting. That's perfect, I guess, lead up to our next question from Perry. It's such a different time now than it was 10 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. So it's a great question. How much time do you spend analyzing your upcoming opponents, and what tools, if any, do you use?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And it's also funny because I, you know, up to the last, until last year, I wasn't really, obviously Steven, my husband, would analyze an opponent like no one I've ever noticed. I mean, he's basically a computer himself. So I would get he would keep it really short, but a little text before every match about what, you know, I was looking to do and certain things that needed to be done for success. But I have since partnered with an analytics group, and it has been a really interesting thing for me. I don't deal directly with them because I think it would be too much information for me. I wouldn't know what to go through and what to pick out. So my coach, Billy, and I think Steven does some of that too still, will go through, analyze the information, pick out what's most valuable, and then relay it to me. So I do work with an analytics group. And I think that it's huge. If you know, in tight moments, you know, let's say Ash Barty goes, you know, flat T, I don't know, I'm just making this up, flat T, you know, on the deuce side and big points. It's a crucial stat to know. Yeah, she might not go there, but it's a great thing to have in your back pocket.
So you're not only putting in time on the mental side, the physical side, the diet side, but even in the analytics. I mean, the level that you're at, it's really that all-encompassing.
It definitely is, and you have to give yourself as much of an advantage as you possibly can. And I'm willing to invest in myself, you know, which I'm very proud of. And that's something that I think is extremely important. And, you know, look, I'm giving myself the best chance to succeed. And I want to be able to retire and say, you know, I didn't leave any leaves unturned. And that's really, you know, what this all comes down to.
You're giving such a great macro picture, you know, because you hear so many juniors saying, oh man, I want to go pro. But, you know, if you had asked me at 14, 15, what does that mean? You wouldn't necessarily know. You know, you just see it on TV, but this is such a good insight into all the little things that make up, you know, the vastness of being a pro. So just absolutely tremendous. A question from Mary, a nice basic one, something that we can all apply to our workouts. What do you do post-workout? Actually, you know what? I'm going to add pre-workout also. What do you do pre and post in terms of stretching?
And stretching. That's a great question, Mary. I have a warm up and my cool down is the easiest of them all. I stretch for probably 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. I get made fun of all the time after I finish the match, and I'm like, I have my legs apart like this, and I'm like bent over, and I'm just catching up with like family on my win or loss. And I'll be sitting there, and my coach is like, "Wait, I just came in here 20 minutes ago. You were in the same position." So I do stretch, not just one stretch, although it may appear that to some. I do pretty much just stretch it. Then I do a recovery drink beforehand. Before a match, I'll do pretty much strictly dynamic with a few kinetic stretches, so like stretches with movement. I won't necessarily sit on the ground and stretch my muscles beforehand. So my warm up in total takes about 30, it's getting up there, so 30, 35 minutes. I'll roll out. I work on my thoracic a lot. That's something that needs a lot of attention as I've gotten older. And yeah, it's just physical warm up and some kinetic stretching at the beginning as well too, I guess.
Ali, I want to finish up this Q&A section from our audience. We've gotten some unbelievable questions, but I'd like to finish it off. This is kind of the perfect one to do it, looking back on everything. Just caught my eye because when I look at you, I think resilience. And the question that I'm looking at is from Javier, and he's asking to you, Alison, what is the meaning of resilience? And talk about your setbacks. What are you most proud of overcoming with your resiliency?
Yeah, gosh, I could get emotional in this one too, but I really think resiliency is just getting pushed down and coming back and doing the right thing. And that for me has that's been my motto. I, pride myself on working. I don't have the biggest serve. I don't have, necessarily the biggest groundies. I don't, it's not like I possess this huge weapon. So I've relied a lot on, just pure work and working hard and putting in, the right time. And that is something, that I do pride myself on. And can you remind me of the second part of the question?
Absolutely. Oh, what does it mean to you? And about your setbacks, what you've been most proud of overcoming?
Yeah, I think, as I've mentioned, you lose pretty much every day. So that is something that, you aren't excused to that, no matter who you are. And so I think that being able to have that, the resiliency to come back the next week after losing, you have to then go back and practice. You have to go spend time in the gym, even though, your ego is knocked down and your confidence is down. You still have to do the right things and then put yourself and be vulnerable again the next week. And you still don't know if you're going to win. So you can lay your heart on the line and it might not happen for you. So I'm most proud in my career, honestly, because I believe that, where I am now is somewhere that maybe with my game, or I'm not trying, be, cocky or anything, but I feel like my game maybe should have been where it is, a while ago. And I'm just proud that over the course of my career, I didn't give up and I didn't slack, on the days that, it felt sucky and I felt like it's never going to happen. I'm going to cry. That I was able to work through it, and ultimately it got me, to where I am now.
Ali, there's so many parts of your life that have been so, inspirational, and, stuff that I've drawn, a lot of inspiration from, and I'm uplifted every time I get to spend time with you, which I look as a real blessing. And now you've been so generous sharing this time with this great base that we have that, loves and cherishes our sport. I'd like to finish with this. If you have because I've seen so many kids come up to you and just, ask for autographs and be so happy when they come and see you at events. You got so many kids out there. If you have, an 11-year-old Alison or a 12-year-old boy watching this, is there, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What would you like to tell them?
I would say first and foremost, have fun. Have fun, enjoy the process, surround yourself by good people, and put in the work every day. So that's kind of 5 things, but I would say all of them. And I think obviously first and foremost for someone young, have fun, enjoy being with your friends, being outside, or in a bubble. That's what I was doing when I was younger. I was in a bubble in Pittsburgh in the winters. Have fun, enjoy the process. You don't know where it's going to take you, but I can tell you it's going to take you to a lot of cool places if you just have the right attitude. Oh no, did we lose him? All right, guys, I'm running it from now on. Let me look at some of these questions. Where did Prakash go? If you guys write in some questions, I don't know, can you guys hear me? Can you? Yes, okay. If you guys type in some questions until Prakash gets back, write something and I will answer. Who is your favorite on the tour? Oh my gosh, they're coming in so fast. Ah! Okay, who's my favorite on tour? Well, I am friendly with, I'm friendly with everyone, but some of my closest friends, Lauren Davis is one of my best friends, even off the tennis court. Vicky Duval. Vicky hasn't been playing for a little while, but she's amazing. Sonia Kennan, I'm sure you guys have been following her. She is an unbelievable tennis player, but an even better person. I am her biggest fan. I would start a Sonia fan club if I could. But Bethany's amazing. Coco, Shelby, literally Melanie Udan's one of my good friends. She obviously retired years ago. Let me answer. Oh my gosh, that kind of Who is your inspiration? Well, I grew up watching Monica Seles, and I thought she was so cool playing 2 hands on both sides, and she had the greatest grunt. So I know y'all think I'm so loud on the court, but I get it from Monica. My recovery drink, I can't say that. That's really good stuff. My least favorite surface. Well, I think if we're going to go, with result based, obviously I haven't necessarily had my most consistent results on clay. With that being said, I don't mind it. I enjoy playing, especially when it's red clay, particularly in like Rome. Madrid's good too. Oh my gosh. What do I eat before a match? I go as clean as possible. I will have plain chicken, plain rice. I won't even eat veggies because sometimes like broccoli can make you gassy. Maybe that's TMI, but just greens can sometimes make you that way. So I do plain. I don't even put olive oil. I put some salt. And sometimes after a tournament, if I have to look even at a grain of rice, I go nuts because I can't handle it anymore. Okay. Oh my gosh. What, I can't even read them. What is my favorite shot in tennis? Oh my gosh. I would have to say when I come in, hit a swing volley or a volley winner. That is my all-time favorite. If I sometimes do a drop shot winner too, that's my favorite because people do not expect it. How do you deal with negativity? I think that's a great question and something that is pretty close to my heart, just because I am a person that, kind of flourishes on positivity and positive people and good vibes. And I think first and foremost, if you can kind of eliminate that source, whether it's someone that's giving you the negativity, I think you need to either confront them or a coping mechanism would be it goes in one ear, out the other. I think when it's coming from yourself, the negativity, you need to combat those and treat them as if they're aliens and there is no place for them. You have to be on yourself though. It's a process and negativity will keep creeping in, but you have to be on yourself consistently to not let it, hatch more eggs in your brain. I think Prakash is back. How about you?
Ali, listen.
I did well there. I'm so I was sweating a little bit though. Wow. I couldn't even read them. I couldn't even read all
the weather here tried to, get me away from you, but I couldn't resist. So I had to come back.
You're back.
Well, you know what? I was gonna call it right there, but we have a few more questions firing in. So let's finish off with a few more since they're all coming in.
Hey, I'm letting you do it because they come in so fast I can't even read them. So I'm gonna let you pick the ones, and I'll be here.
They listen. They're firing in some good ones, and by the way, they're all sending in some nice compliments too. Ali's so sweet, and you know what? I completely agree.
I fooled them all. I'm just kidding.
Ali, your career spans about this much. 11 years we're talking about now. 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
Do we have a favorite match?
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm gonna be cliche and say, my quarterfinals against Serena last year. Actually, we're going to take it back one. I'm going to say Barty, because when I beat Barty, I knew I was going to become a member of that Last Eight Club. And if you would have told me, at the beginning of my career, I would have been a member of the Last Eight Club at the All England Club, I would have died and gone to heaven, which is what you do when you go to Wimbledon. You die and go to heaven. So I was so happy to have won the match, obviously, because I didn't let the moment get to me. But the fact that I was also now a lifetime member of the Last Eight Club, I was floored.
So I guess that they're kind of preemptive, but
I don't think floored's the right word for
that. Well, the one that followed up was what's your favorite tournament? I mean, that has to be a simple question then, yes?
Yeah, Wimbledon is hands down. Nothing competes with that.
And now we have one more. These names are flashing by very quickly. This is the result of your popularity, Ali. These questions are just, flying by here.
All my friends.
But since you have all this positivity, can we take it away from the sport for a minute and apply it to the situation going on? Someone popped in and asked, what's your best advice for this period that we're going through in the world right now?
I think acceptance. I mean, it's something you have to accept the situation. And honestly, the beautiful part about, this terrible time for the people that are actually suffering because of it is that we're not in control of it. And there's nothing we can do except stay home and do our part in that regard. So if nothing else, I think it's been a very humbling time, and I think just try to take it as a breather for things that you were never able to do before. When we're busy, we say, oh, we can't wait for a break, and when we have a break, we can't wait to be busy. So it's just kind of accepting what is, being in the moment, and doing. You can still go outside, at least where we are, and go for runs, go for walks. You can put in an exercise. I need like a 5x5 area, and I can put in a workout where I'm dying. So I feel like, you're still able to accomplish things. And I'm thinking about maybe taking an online course. I've been throwing that up in the air so many times, and I haven't done it yet, but it's an option.
Ali, on behalf of everyone who's joined in, which has been a really, really large number, just the biggest, warmest thank you. You've been so open, so generous. I think so many people have learned so many things. So thank you, Ali. Thank you so much.
Oh, I love this. Thank you, everyone, so much. I had the best time. I could sit here all night. But I got so many things to do,
While Ali goes and hits those quarantine snacks, which I'm sure she's going to hit.
I don't think there's any left.
Everyone out there, thank you so much for joining. Just a quick reminder as well, the UTR Powered by Oracle All Access Series will continue this coming Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific. We'll have the esteemed coach, Nick Bollettieri, which I'm sure everyone can learn a ton from there. So I guess from me and my sister-in-law, thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.